Hi, I'm Ross Benjamin reporting for Offshore Gaming Association. Be sure to go to OSGA.com on a daily basis and check out who the best sports books are to deal with, who's giving out the best bonuses, and in the negative side of the industry, who's the sports books to stay away from, the ones that pay very slowly and give you a hard time about collecting your winnings. Get all that pertinent information. Nobody does it better. That's the Offshore Gaming Association at OSGA.com. Now let's get to my three leans, early leans that is, for Saturday, September 9th in college football. Let's start with the game between the Buffalo Bulls, who will travel to West Point to take on the Army Black Knights. Buffalo is coming off a 17-7 loss at the hands of Minnesota on the road last week. The Bulls actually performed better than expected as a 21.5-point underdog. They easily got the cash in that game, but they didn't show anything on offense. And Tyree Jackson is a very talented quarterback for Buffalo. The sophomore has an NFL caliber arm. I don't think anybody would dispute that, but he continues to get plagued by his accuracy. In his freshman year, he completed just 53% of his passes on the year, and last week, just 52% of his passes. In his defense, his receivers weren't getting a heck of a lot of separation against the Minnesota secondary. The Army Black Knights, a 64-6 throttling over an FCS opponent last week in Fordham, albeit it was against weaker, inferior competition, but by the same token, Army racked up 513 yards rushing, only had to throw the ball 2 times, didn't complete any of those passes, and boy oh boy, when you talk about not having any passing yards and racking up over 60 points, that's a rare combination. Keep this in mind. Army last year was 3-0 out of the gate. They traveled to Buffalo as a 13.5-point favorite. They lose that game 23-20. The Bulls hand them their first defeat of the season. On top of that, this is an Army team with 16 returning starters. The memory of that loss, I'm sure, is implanted in their brain and will serve as a motivational factor this week. Big revenge game for Army here. I like them in this spot, minus the 16.5. That's just what we're going to do, lay the points with Army. Next game, Louisville travels to Chapel Hill to take on the North Carolina Tar Heels. Well, North Carolina comes off an embarrassing 35-30 home defeat last week against Cal. They were a 13.5-point favorite in that game, and boy, oh boy, the North Carolina defense that they were going to be leaning on early in the year with 7 returning starters, and their offense, which was the inexperienced part, and everybody expected to struggle, the defense let them down. I mean, you consider the fact Cale's quarterback, Matt Bowers, was making his first ever collegiate start, and he threw for 363 yards and 4 touchdowns on the road against this North Carolina defense. And the Tar Heels have some real issues at quarterback. They bounced between 2 players at quarterback, and neither one of them was effective. If you consider the fact as well, Mitch Trubisky was their quarterback last year. He went in the second overall pick in the NFL draft, and then also 3 years prior to that, they had a starter in Marquise Williams that was pretty effective. So a real downgrade in quarterback this year for North Carolina. I think they'll struggle in this contest, especially in light of the fact that Louisville vastly underachieved last week. Yes, the Cardinals came away with a 35-28 win in Indianapolis against Purdue, but they were a 25.5-point favorite in that game and needed a late fourth quarter touchdown to pull this contest out. On the flip side of the equation, Lamar Jackson was absolutely phenomenal. The 2016 Heisman Trophy winner threw for 378 yards, ran for another 101 yards, and I don't see North Carolina having an inkling on how to stop this Louisville offense this week, especially keeping Lamar Jackson in wraps. I would say that Louisville here, I rarely like to lay points on the road, but I would say that Louisville here is primed for a big effort and a blowout win. I'm going to take Louisville here minus the 10 at North Carolina. Finally, the SEC opener for both South Carolina and Missouri on Saturday as they face each other in Columbia, Missouri. Both teams are coming off wins in their opening games, both in a little bit of different fashion. South Carolina, a 13.5-point underdog against, an 8-point underdog against North Carolina State, came away with a 35-28 upset win over the Wolfpack, despite the fact they were outgained by 258 yards and also had 13 minutes and 22 seconds less in terms of time of possession. They're not going to get away with that type of effort again on the road against a Missouri team that could really move the ball. In addition, South Carolina 0-8 in their last 8 road games following a win in the previous game. And that's really significant to me, folks. I know they've made strides under Will Muschamp since he took over as head coach in 2016. But, numbers don't lie and liars don't figure. And with the point spread here being just 2.5, with Missouri being a favorite, that straight up number and that futility in those situations on the road take on additional significance in that regard. Missouri, the good part, 72 points scored last week. Drew Lock, junior quarterback, just a tremendous performance. He threw for 521 yards and also 7 touchdown passes. They got 200 yards plus out of their starting running back. The negative, they gave up 43 points to a FCS team in Missouri State. But if you want to look for a silver lining there, Missouri State only scored on 1 of 8 second half possessions, totaling just 8 points in the second half. Hopefully Missouri, for their sake, can carry that defensive momentum over to this game against South Carolina. They'll have a difficult time stopping the Gamecocks, but I don't think they'll have any trouble whatsoever moving the ball. I like the short number here. I'm going to take Missouri minus the 2.5 over South Carolina. Repeating again, Army minus 16.5 over Buffalo. Louisville minus 10 over North Carolina. And Missouri minus 2.5 over South Carolina. Be sure to visit my website, rbwins.com, where you can get all the games I personally wager on myself, as well as what my paying clients receive. That's rbwins.com, where you pay a little to make a lot. Until the next time, good luck, and we'll see you then.